home. They carry beans. Go and carry maize, they carry maize. Then you teach them how to count, to do addition using beans and maize. You are teaching an abstract concept using a tangible things that these young people can identify with and understand quickly. When God says, give me your heart, how can you give him your heart? No wonder, that's why Dr. David Livingstone, when he came to Africa, he wrote a will and said, I've given my heart to Africa. And when Dr. David Livingstone died, what did Africans do when they read the will? Not understanding the language of Dr. David Livingstone, they opened up his chest, took out the heart, buried in Zambia, embalmed, closed up the chest, transported the body to Indian Ocean, and took him to be buried out there without his heart, because he had said, I've given my heart to what? To Africa. When God says, give me your heart, the language is too high. It is superlative in terms of degree of comparisons to what we know. We can't figure it, how to shake him up. So he says, if you return this, your heart has come. Because he's speaking to you like the way you talk to your toddler. Are you getting what I'm saying, Elder? He is not interested in these things. But that is the only way my heart can be in his hands. So then he makes even promises and says, if you do this, this is what I will do. If you do this, to motivate you so that you can bring your heart to him. And even when he has done all these things, what do we do? Another question. Yes, Elder. Elder Yayo, you see, don't worry. If I haven't answered, you are an elder, man. You are ordained elder. You can always, cause an agitation. At least you can say, no! Yes, go ahead, my elder.
So, thank you, Pastor. Before I ask my question,
yes, sir.
I want to understand.
Please do.
That before I leave this place,
yes, Elder,
I do not have a misconception,
yes, Elder,
of how I'm going to use that which God
yes.
has given me.
Yes, yes.
And I know that everything belongs to
God.
him.
Yes, sir.
And so, if it comes out that go and enjoy, some will leave this place to go and enjoy for real.
Yes.
Until the next Sabbath, if they are to bring their tithe,
yes,
then there's nothing to bring to God.
Yes.
And they will blame you for this kind of disposition.
Yes, sir.
But now my question comes in the book of Acts chapter 9.
Yes, sir.
Paul is on his way to Damascus.
Yes, sir.
And then he meets Christ on the way.
Yes.
And you know the events that take place.
Yes, sir.
But of interest to me is verse, let me just open. Of interest to me is verse 5, from verse 4.
Yes.
Where Paul fell to, of course Saul fell to the ground and had a voice say to him, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?
Yes, sir.
Then you drop down to verse 5, then he says, who are you, Lord?
Yes, sir.
Who are you, Lord?
Yes.
I am Jesus, whom I am Jesus whom you are persecuting, he replied.
Yes.
Now get up, go into the city, and you'll be told what you must do.
Yes, sir.
Now, let me connect it with what we are discussing.
Yes, yes.
Is it not true that God still needs us to do something for him? Because if you go ahead, when it tells Ananias to go and speak to Paul, it tells him very categorically that this man must do my bidding. And that brings me to verse 15
yes, sir.
of the same book.
Yes, sir.
But the Lord said to Ananias, go, this man is my chosen instrument.
Yes, sir.
to carry my name before the Gentiles and their kings
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
before the people of Israel.
Yes, sir.
I will show him how much he must suffer
Yes.
for my cause,
Yes.
or
Yes.
must suffer for my name.
Yes.
Is it not true that God still needs us in one way or the other?
Thank you, Elder.
Thank you.
Let me ask a question. Suppose God needs me and I refuse. Does he have an option? Does God have an option for trusting you so much as an Adventist, me and him and you, trusting us so much to do his biddings, and we are not doing? What happens? I think I'll use an illustration. Jesus is the triumphal entry into the city of Jerusalem. Jesus is walking in on the back of a colt or a donkey. And as they walk in the city, there is a lot of jubilation and singing and praising, and the whole air is rendered with praises and hallelujah, Hosanna, the King that comes in great glory. And the Pharisees and the leaders of the temple go to Jesus and tell him, hey, man, you know, right now we have guests in the city. This is a very high weekend. This week is a week for the Passover. We have guests from all over the world. They have come here. And here these people are singing of you as our king. What are they saying? Don't you think this is a threat to our peace? And especially for cohesion. I mean, why is this? Tell them to shut up. Then Jesus told them, I can still. I don't necessarily need their praises. But if they keep quiet, the stones will pick up from where they left. Does God specifically need me? What if I say no? And he needs me. Or only those who accept are the ones that God needs. Does it mean those who have chosen to be used by the Lord are the only ones that he has chosen? Is there a possibility that God can choose a man to do his biddings and that man can say no? Do I have the privilege of saying yes or no? I have it. Did Paul have the honors of saying no? And for that reason, Elder, if those questions are answered together, then the conclusion is this. God will be so much happy if we chose to be chosen by him. If we chose to be the chosen of the Lord, he is very much happy. He will never interfere with my desire. He will never interfere with my choice as to whether I want to have anything to do or not. I can sit here morning, evening, and leave and go home and continue doing my stupid things. It is up to me. That is the power God has created me with. That is why I will say, God does not need me. Particularly, he does not. But he is so happy having created me for his purpose, to do his biddings. I can choose to do it, and it will be honor and glory to him. But if I chose even not to do, God will not cry and pull out his hand and say, look, I have invested in this man or this woman, and I've done all these things. I've protected him. I've taken him to school. He has knowledge. I've given him a job. I've given him a wife and children, and he has money. Now look at what he's doing. God does not go to that direction. You still enjoy the freedom to choose to work with him or work against him. You and me have that power. And that's why I said it's the greatest risk that God took. If I were God, I would not have created man like that. I'd have created man as a robot. So I sit watching and I tell angels to take care of a few numbers. So if, because you know I'm not omnipresent. So because if I were God, but I'm not omnipresent. So I would tell angels, make sure kila mtu unachunga watu 10 alafu unakaa na remote. Ukiona anaenda kufanya ujinga, una press, alafu unafinya rewind. So kama alikuwa anataka kuenda kufanya kitu hapo mbele, anarudi bila yeye kutaka, anarudi nyuma mpaka kule mwisho, alafu unamwachilia pale. Unaacha sasa, unaweka normal. You know, that's what I would have done under normal circumstances. But God is a risk taker, and because of that, He is God. He is God. And let God be God, and man be man. In other words, this is what we say, Elder. Even when we have said all these things, the choice is in our hands. You choose to use those things the way you want, no problem. But when you use those things the way you want, you are denying God access to your heart. So it's up to you. If you feel you know how to manage your heart, to pamper it and to wash it and to clean it up, keep your heart and let's see how far you will go with your heart. That is what we said, Elder. Yes, Elder Ayayo. I will take 2 more questions and then we come to the close. Hey. If we don't answer your questions, you think you can die. No. Okay, Elder Ayayo, then we come to these 2 gentlemen here. Yes.
Pastor, something now comes up
Yes,
in
yes,
my mind.
Yes, sir.
God has given us a choice.
Yes, sir.
He can call us, we refuse to go,
Yes, sir.
and that would be our choice
Yes, sir.
with the consequences.
Yes. No, and add this. We have the power to choose what we want to do. What we do not have is the power to choose what consequences will come or result from what we have chosen to do. Go ahead, Elder.
Now, what now confuses me, what brings in the question is, I have 3 cases. 1, Jonah is sent to Nineveh.
Yes, to go and preach.
To go and preach.
Yes. And he refuses.
He refuses.
Yes, he goes to Tarshish, Elder.
Instead of God saying, okay,
Yes.
you've refused, I'll give you to somebody else,
Elder Gishana, can you help?
he's put in the fish.
Yes.
And he goes to Nineveh.
He's swallowed by the fish.
So it is like God says, it's you who must go.
Yes.
You have no choice.
Yes. You must go.
Then there is Moses.
Yes.
Moses is told, go to Egypt and tell Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
Then he says, no. He brings so many excuses until he reaches a point where God wanted to kill him.
Yes.
Eventually he goes.
Yes.
You see, that's like,
It's
and
like,
then we have the latest case
yes.
where White,
Yes.
you'll correct me if I'm wrong, is given the message,
Yes.
or some male person is given the message
Yes.
to go out and proclaim.
Yes. And they refuse.
They refuse.
And the Ellen
And
G.
God
White is
says,
called,
okay, you've refused.
hey, let me have another one.
Let me have another one.
Yes.
When does God force,
Yes.
and when does he get another option?
In other words, why can't we define God on a linear perspective? This is what my brother is asking. Algebra, if you remember, there's what you call linear. You see, you want God to be described and known by this line and not any other line. Now, the moment we'll get to that place where we can describe God from a linear perspective mathematically, then God will stop being God and we will become God ourselves. Please give to these 2 gentlemen here. I mean, God exists in varieties. Today, That's why he created Ayayo to look the way he looks like, and he created this other gentleman who looks the way he looks, and he created me the way I look like. Thank you. And some things, Elder, I confess much ignorance. Please do.
Thank you, Pastor. This was a bit pressing because I'd been doing a study with somebody. We are still in the process of doing a study, and we are yet to conclude, but I take the privilege of also engaging you on this. I'll withhold the name or even the relation for purposes of social ethics. We were doing a study with somebody concerning the work of God in the heart, and I must acknowledge that this message came in time, especially for me. And in the process of doing that, we came to tithing. Now, the person is not an Adventist, and